Thank you for joining us for Sorrento Resource Connector's new series, Community Conversations, where we will explore solutions to critical social issues and showcase businesses championing community impact on fourth Tuesdays at 8 p.m. I am Winsome, and it is my pleasure to lead this impactful conversation in partnership with Mothers Union, St. Gabriel's branch, supporting the global 16 Days of Activism against Gender-Based Violence campaign. Together, we'll explore solutions to create safer spaces for women and girls in Jamaica. So stay tuned in for insights from the National President of the Mothers Union movement, support systems available for women and girls in Jamaica, tips on recognizing and addressing gender-based violence, and community-driven solutions. Of course, share your thoughts in the comments and take a stand with us as we unite to end gender-based violence. And we are going to get the discussion rolling. In our first segment, let me bring on with me our national president for Mothers Union Movement, Diocese of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, Yvonne Johnson Reed. Lady Johnson Reed, welcome to Community Conversations.
Good evening, and thank you, Sister Witta, for your welcome. Good evening to your audience, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak.
Fantastic. All right, I love that reference, Sister Witta. All right, so the Mothers Union has been a powerful force in community advocacy. Could you share some of the ways the organization has been involved in ending violence against women and girls?
Thank you. The Mothers Union participates in the annual international campaign titled 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. It starts on the 25th of November, which is the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, and ends on December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day. So Mothers Union joins globally with other organizations to raise awareness of and call for an end to gender-based violence in all its forms and in all society. So through our faith, we gender hope, we give care. And resources are produced specifically for the Mothers Union globally. And we also use other resources from United Nations and from Canada. What we do is to share information. We encourage others to use the resources and to join that call. We share knowledge. We increase awareness. We advocate. And our members at what we call the grassroots level, that is the members in the communities themselves, they work all year round aside the members in the community to help end gender-based violence and to lend support to the affected. So this year, the third year, the theme is no more 1 in 3. And at the local level, there are specific projects. So sometimes it is just sharing information by posters, pamphlets. There can be small gatherings. We have silent campaign where we just gather in areas just to witness. We have prayer meetings because prayer is powerful. Last evening, we launched our 16 Days of Activities.
Yes.
We had a prayer session, a wonderful 40, 50 minutes of song and praise, reflection and prayers. And we share our concerns. We identify concerns. We pray and we act. And so we share the goodness of Christ as we experience them in our lives. And we respond to the call to love and to give hope.
Indeed. And if there's ever a time we need hope, it is now. And nothing beats prayer. All right. So Serengeti Resource Connector is happy to be a part of this mission to spread awareness as it relates to ending gender-based violence. All right. But I'm sure, like any of the other social issues, there are challenges even as you seek to tackle them as an organization. What are some of these challenges that Mothers Union encountered in its efforts, and how have you been able to overcome, or how are you navigating them?
So the challenges, limited financial resources, because as we want to reach out and as we see the need, we do not have resources financially to do all we want to do, but I'll tell you about how we are trying to respond. There is silence. So the persons who are experiencing the abuse, they're not speaking out about it. The victims, the citizens sometimes who are aware may know what is happening, but they too are silent. Is it fear? Is it, just
Yes.
keeping away, stepping away from the issues? And sometimes you have the challenges with silence, even at the leadership level. Then there is a level of awareness. And so we are speaking out more now than we used to. So the level of awareness and the buy-in remains a challenge. Then we have the human resources challenge. Or aging members. A lot of our members are, our organization in Jamaica is 126 years. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, 126 years. So you can appreciate that over generations. And so many of our younger persons who are members, they are working persons, they have families, and so time also is a constraint. Now, how are we responding? We are making better use of technology. And that is one of the good things that came out of COVID, because with COVID, when we were in lockdown and we had to pivot and use the technology to engage and do our work, then we still now continue to use the technology. And so we are able to reach our members, reach persons right across Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, because we have a branch in the Cayman Islands. And that is making quite a difference for us. And of course, we are encouraging our younger members to get involved. And as they get involved and become more aware, they will bring their peers. And so for us, we look forward to a hopeful future with great opportunities to respond more readily. And then we work with other groups because, as we said, we have the financial challenge. So when we pool our efforts, we pool all the resources, or experience, or gifts, and so we are able to do more. And we are increasing the level of awareness and activities. And so this grand opportunity through St. Gabriel's Mothers Union is one way in which now we are encouraging the dialogue, encouraging persons to speak out. Prayer is ongoing. Prayer is ongoing. And we use every opportunity to get the word out. So
fantastic. Right. And as you mentioned about support at the local level, how can local communities and faith-based organizations play a stronger role in this fight? Some practical ways that they can get involved, because sometimes they believe that they're going to have to move mountains, but there are little ways. So
Yes,
share some of those with us.
certainly we work together because unity is strength. And when
Right?
we pool our resources, then we can do more. So we can help citizens to better understand the many different forms of gender-based violences, for example, help the citizens to increase awareness of the related facts and figures relating to gender-based violence. Because with the increased awareness, and then persons get to understand some of this, what they didn't look for as signs of possible impact or so. Once they get
Yes.
more aware, then they will be looking out. Then they're going to act, working with all of the citizens to show love, to live out our life loving others, showing love for one another, because that is what God calls us to do.
That
Jesus,
is right.
that is his commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. And to be aware that there is help for those living in misery, because help exists. But if persons are not aware that the help exists, and sometimes just to encourage persons to give some time, a listening ear, and in their sphere, sometimes they may identify, they have a concern, and they can identify that a change is needed, but
Yes.
how to go about it. So try to get help, talk about it, try to get help. And we need to persist. Change doesn't happen overnight. And so we need to persist. We need to make the effort to speak out and increase our advocacy. So as the awareness grows, changes can take place.
Well said. And to wrap this section up nicely, what message do you have for women and families affected by violence and those looking to support them?
For members and families affected by violence, it is often not obvious that the violence is even taking place sometimes. It's a subtle way, just what is said and the ongoing pressure and what have you. And we sometimes, the individuals may just accept it as okay. And I just saw him stay, or I just saw she stay. And as difficult as it is, they need to speak out about the concerns. Find someone that they can feel comfortable to talk with about the problems. And to assure these victims that persons exist who care. Persons are there who want to listen and to help. Some of us may not have all the answers, and none of us for that matter has all the answers.
That's right.
But we can point them to resources, and we can make a difference. We help to build trust and help them to seek help. It is important that they know that they are loved and that they feel the love, because love is shown by action. We need to be a friend. Take the time, assure them that it is not their fault. The abuser, the perpetuator is responsible. It is important that the person who is being abused comes to the place where they decide that they have to take decisions. Whatever choices are going to be made, the decisions will have to be theirs. We can't make those decisions for them. So they have to come to that place where they make those decisions themselves. Now, my message for those who give support, first of all, to say thanks, thanks, thanks for your effort. Whatever you do, it is making a difference in this campaign, in this activity, in this fight to win the battle that one day these issues will be behind us. And so we can, as survivors, supporters, can get help through their advocacy. Think about what you see as a challenge, as a concern. And then you contact individuals of like mind, talk about it, and then having had a discussion, coming to a consensus, you act. Is it something that you are able to tackle with your particular group, or do you need to get help, or you need to refer the persons to help? And it's important to know the do's and don'ts when responding to survivors, because we want to ensure that we are not causing more harm than already exists, that we are doing something to help the situation. And just to remind these persons who are responding that the changes take time to happen. And so try to be persistent despite the challenges that they may encounter. Again, collaboration is very important. Unity is strength. And can't overemphasize that they need to assure the victims that persons care and want to help and support. And lastly, I say to the persons who are responding, be strong, be courageous, in spite sometimes of the negative responses and unfortunate comments or attitudes that we will experience in the process of trying to help others.
All right, sound advice. All right, so as we wrap this segment, don't go anywhere, Lady Johnson Reed. We will have you back on later. But let me just acknowledge Dr. Lavelle and with this Jose student here, you're checking in. To Shauna Indomitable Mullings over on Instagram, Clavina, Wandon, and the others, those who are with us on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Lavelle, I see your questions. We'll take those later. But at this time, we are going to switch on over to our youth leader from the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica in the person of Javon Dubidad. I just love that last name. So Dubidad, welcome to Community Conversations.
Good night, Miss Winter, and thank you for welcoming me. I want to also greet the various individuals and the media platform that is watching. I also welcome you guys to have participate in this insightful discussion.
All right, just relax. All right, so we're going to be talking about support systems that are available for women and girls in Jamaica. So from your perspective, how accessible are shelters and safe houses for women and girls facing violence in Jamaica? And are there needs for improvement?
Definitely. They are accessible as you have various outlets for these individuals that are suffering from gender-based violence, especially looking at the category of domestic violence. You find that they are accessible, but issue may arise where concerning to like areas such as rural areas. These individuals that are suffering from these violence may not have access towards it. I think if I can remember the the Bureau of Women Affairs would have stated that in 2023 that these individuals that are in the rural areas, women, they are suffering due to the lack of funding because they have to highly rely upon donation and they do not have funding from the government. So you realize that yes, meanwhile it may accessible, but it is not, oh well, this diverse, it don't meet the category for everyone. And you have issues such as funding, and it is a serious issue where due to the fact that, oh well, lack of funding, you have lack of shelters in the looking at the rural areas, to a lack of shelters, lack of safe houses. So it is definitely a serious issue, and it is a area of concern that the government must pay attention to, because not only non-profitable organization, they try their best, and you realize that you have several non-profitable organizations that offer shelter and safe house for these individuals, due to the fact that they have understand that these individuals that are suffering from it is it have an overwhelming impact on them, and it caused them to abandon the household. Looking at the females, they abandon the household, and due to that, the fact that they have abandoned it, they need somewhere that they can feel a sense of belonging. And here comes the non-profitable organization trying to do their best, but the the government have to do more. The government have to implement more safe houses, have to invest in these organizations, and have to invest in this area because it is very much crucial. And my recommendation is that invest in them, especially for the rural areas. You have to invest in these areas so that, oh well, shelter is there, safe house is there, because women in the rural area, they do not have the, especially looking at the lower class, lower socioeconomic class, they may not have the access or the finance to take a transportation from Manchester to Spanish Town or to Kingston to just have a safe have access to the safe house. So you realize that it is necessary to invest in this area, invest in the rural area. Don't neglect the rural area, because just as how the urban areas may have gender-based violence, the rural area do have it too, and these women are suffering from it. So that is my
Indeed.
recommendation.
Right. And I'm glad that you're able to share recommendations, even as you highlight the concerns. That is very important and expected from our youth leaders. But outside of shelters, there's another side of it in terms of legal assistance and advocacy, critical roles in the process. Are there gaps in these systems, and how can we strengthen them?
As you said, it is a critical role. Definitely, it is, but it have its implementation. It have its challenges that may hinder it from being effective as how it should be. So even though you have situation where, oh well, women themselves, they are suffering from this gender-based violence, and they want individuals, they want legal advice from individuals that are well capable, as I repeat, well capable to assist them, well capable to even say, oh well, this is what you should do. But they also want individual that is well capable to advise them in such a way that they are educated, in such a way that they know what they are supposed to do as an individual that are suffering from gender-based violence in the house. So there are gap in it. You have situation such as lack of funding and lack of training for these individuals, especially if you're going to look at the legal aid council in Jamaica. You find even though the government, they create facilities, they create legal assistance for individuals who are suffering from gender-based violence, these individuals are not effective. It is just the truth. You find where they are not effective, are competent, and say for example, this individual just finished Norman Manley Law School, just received his bar degree, or you want to say the LLB degree. You find that uh may not have the sufficient training, and due to this factor, the individual may not sufficiently represent that individual who want to solve the case of gender-based violence, who want to solve the case of domestic violence that she's suffering from within the household. So you find where the government not presenting the right individual, the more competent individual to assist these individuals. And another gap is the funding for these individuals. And you say, and it overall, it is the same thing for any individual that have come faced with the come before the justice system, and they are in the lower socio-economic class, and they may not afford a legal assistance. They have to rely heavily upon the incompetent government lawyers that the government have given them. As I was saying now, as it concerning to funding, you find that these individuals that are legal aid, they are not sufficiently being paid. So it causes an issue where they are not competent also and committed to the work, because I'm not paying that much. I'm just receiving maybe 50,000 JMD. That is nothing. So I do not have to represent you, or I'm going to represent an individual that going to give me 1.7 million. It's just an estimate. 1.7 million. So you find where they do not represent these individuals as well as who they should, as well as who they were trained to. So it is a lot. And you also have the Jamaican women lawyer, which assist individuals that are suffering from gender-based violence in Jamaica.
All right. Quite a bit there, and we keep hearing about lack of funding all around. What is the current impact, though, of the national helplines? Because we have a number of them out there, and it's the support centers. And how can they be better promoted among those in need? Because although they're there, those who really need them might not necessarily know about them. So, what's the current impact based on your research?
All right. So the current impact is not, it is just lack of access to them. As you just make reference to how we can improve it, how individual can know about it. Lack of awareness. I think Miss Reed would have stated it, that the lack of awareness. Governments are not investing in these areas, such as campaign. I think you even have the crisis center that is a helpline, helpline for individuals from domestic violence. So they can call to these helplines for assistance. Where I can go? How can you counsel me? How can you assist me? But the thing is that you find lack of awareness. Individuals don't know that they have this access to them, so they are not taking access, so they are not taking up their opportunity, and etc. So it is definitely a lot of issue as it concerning to the helpline centers.
All right, let me put the question another way. We have some really strong youth networks across the island. How can the youth organizations help to champion this cause to ensure that our communities are made aware of these
So you
important
have
services?
various youth community that is based in the communities, as I have stated. You have various of them, and due to this issue, you find that these youths, they advocate for gender-based violence. They advocate for women to speak up about it. Though may seem as this submissive and this docile creature, yes, still, yes, your voice should be heard in society. Yes, still, your voice should be known. People should know that, yes, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm going through. The government need to do better about this issue. I'm not supposed to be neglected. My voice supposed to be heard. And you find that various youth organization, you have the St. Catherine Youth Innovation Center. They also deal with these issues. They also advocate for gender-based violence. So the community on a whole help the institution to create this haven, to create this love in the areas that are suffering from domestic violence. So if I'm suffering from, if a young lady, for example, is suffering from domestic violence, due to the fact that the community create this cohesion, create this sense of belonging, you find where this individual can have trust in an individual that is in the community and can report this incident to one of the community members, and they report it, since one may be apprehensive, but the different youth organization play an essential role in promoting it. You find that, well, even though UWI Mona Gill is not a youth organization, but it is a community of youths that advocate on different issues that are going on in UWI. And you find where even about gender-based violence, they advocate for it, even currently now. Even currently, I should say.
All right, it's great to know that that's happening across the board. You mentioned in terms of trust and also reporting. So we move to our law enforcement. What is the role of the police in addressing gender-based violence in an effective manner? And how can they build the trust to improve on what they're doing?
Okay. So you find, even though these individuals, they do make up the executive of the branch of government of separation of power, you find where they are supposed to enforce the laws, and they are not higher than the law and this rule of law theory and everything that surround these police members, these individuals that make up the executive. Once they have committed the crime, in essence, you find where these individuals, they are not going to report the crime, etc. Say, for instance, a gender-based crime that have happened. A lady want to know that, yes, she can go to a police member, she can report this crime to them, but you have limitation. Say, for instance, a police have committed the crime, committed gender-based violence. He's not going to take up that crime upon himself, because why? He don't want to face the law. He don't want to seem as an individual that is not just. So you find where that these individuals who supposed to uphold the laws in society are actually the one that are breaking them, are actually the one that don't see the laws as necessary as who me and you may see it as an ordinary citizen. So there's a lot as it concerning to the police, because one want to put their trust in them, but due to the fact that these individuals are the one that actually commit the crime also. So my friend who is a police may not investigate me because we are friends, we are bridging, and me no want to go report a crime, say, yeah, he might beat up in woman and stuff. So it is a lot, and you find where he may not come before due to this factor. So there's corruption as it concerning to investigation and dissatisfaction by public trust. People don't trust these individuals due to the fact that they have committed the crime, due to the fact that they have corruption too. It is a lot, and it just creates this whole reputation that is dissatisfaction, that is not appreciated, that is distasteful by the citizens of the country.
Right. I know some really upstanding police officers. So even though we have those cases, as with so many professions where you have the odd ones, but in terms of the system that is supposed to, how it's supposed to work in terms of providing the service, are you able to speak on that? When
Yes,
the report is made to the police, what should the citizens expect when they report to the police based on your knowledge?
yes, most of the citizens, they are expecting the police to be individual that okay can report the law, can report the case, can investigate the case, and step by step give them details as how they may go about with reporting it. That is what they want, and they want a bit of counseling. What advice can you give to me, since you're the one that's supposed to enforce the law? What are you going to tell me to report it to whatsoever? These are what they want to hear, and many of them want to know that yes, their case going to be bring forth before court. So they want individuals that they can trust, individual that they know that are competent, individual that are going to make the necessary decision, make the necessary step to ensure that yes, their voice have been heard, yes, they have received justice for the violence that they have been posed by. Yeah, so there's a lot.
Indeed. And I'm happy that at Serenity Resource Connector, we look at all sides of the coins in terms of providing resources. So there's a playlist for community safety and security. And there is about two different segments where we actually engaged with the domestic violence intervention center. As a matter of fact, I believe our conversation in the second Thursday of November was included that area as well. So I'd want for you to share that so persons are aware of where exactly to go for the support, because there's a specific unit that deals with that so that they're able to get the support that they really need. I'm seeing the questions. We're going to take those later. And just to forewarn those who are joining us live, that we usually go up to 9 p.m., but based on the nature of the conversation, we want to make sure that we get you as much information as you possibly can so we can build awareness and also provide you with some resources that you can take away with you. So if we have to go over the hour, for those on Instagram, I see a number of my young people over on Instagram. So I'm going to ask you to hop on over to YouTube. Just click the link and hop on over to YouTube if we have to go over the 9 p.m. All right, so Debidad, stay put. We will be bringing you back on in a little while. So we are staying with the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica, and we're going to have on now Special Interest Coordinator Delroy Sparks. So Sparks, turn on your microphone and greet our viewers, those who are joining us live.
Pardon me. Good evening, gentle people.
Yes.
How are you?
Fantastic. All right. So we just heard from one of the youth leaders there at the NYPJ. So
Yes.
let's try to give our viewers an understanding as to how to recognize the signs of gender-based violence. So let's start here because it's often misunderstood, the whole concept of gender-based violence. Could you explain what constitutes gender-based violence and its various forms?
It can be subtle. It can be very subtle. Um, but we have to understand firstly that that we have a culture problem. We have a culture problem wherein we don't have that kind of respect for each other, and that's where it starts. We Our culture has broken down over the years to have people disregarding each other, and so we don't have our children these days growing up with morals and values and that kind of thing. I grew up in the country, and I grew up knowing that we must respect each other. I grew up knowing that the women are respectable individuals in our society, and so we should treat them a particular way, treat them with class. And so when you treat them that kind of way as ladies, then you would then know that there are certain things that you don't do. When you probably would speak to your classmate, let's speak for example in the primary school setting, you don't speak to a lady like that. When you probably would rub shoulder with your playmate as a male, you would not think of doing that. um and so once the breakdown comes, is coming in a lack of respect in that kind of way, then we realize if it is not treated at that particular age, then these children grow up as adults taking on that same mindset. So we can also look at the breakdown of the fact that a community does not raise a child anymore. Um, and so I think that it is all moving parts in this entire mechanism. And if everybody is playing their part effectively, then we really wouldn't be having this kind of problem, you see. So we're talking about the classroom, we're talking about young children, we're talking about the lack of respect. All in all, we are realizing that these things after a time create a particular culture. And so how do we identify it? So to answer your question, as I said before, it is very subtle. It is a lack of respect. So the lack of respect leads to not speaking to a lady with respect until it becomes that you start to behave a little bit arrogant around each other. And then because you don't respect them, you don't respect a female, you feel like you're privy to do certain things. And so what do you do then? You start to stretch your bounds, and you probably slap her in some areas or touch her in some areas because you feel your sexual being um itching you a little bit,
Oh,
and so you need to satisfy that, you know. And then there's peer pressure, the access to information, and young children being so um, exposed to all sorts of things. And because they're exposed to these kind of things, they believe that they should probably try it from time to time. And then when the males meet up, they have these little conversation. Oh, I did this to Mary in the classroom, I did this to Shan in the classroom. And by the time you look, it becomes a norm. And so everybody disregards what females were created for, and to respect their boundaries, and to respect their space. And so the boys just do what boys do, mess around. And so the teachers, I don't want to raise a particular issue here, because as I say, these things starts from the classroom. Teachers play a very important role where this is concerned. A teacher is placed in a classroom to nurture and to build the students, build the children, you know. And I realize also that in the education system, that children get away with all sorts of stuff because um, the rules that are set there that should be enforced, when you check it probably from a ministry level, you know, the ministry says, well, the child has the right to. And so you can't reprimand the child, you can't talk too hard to a child anymore. Um, but teachers just go to school to teach. And I find that that is a problem now, because the teacher does not necessarily care about the holistic well-being of the students anymore. And so when a teacher would probably just at a little glance identify that a particular child is operating a particular way, and then they should take that child in and to teach them, it doesn't happen. It won't happen at home. The child maybe, for example, not have that kind of parents that would teach them certain things. And I believe that as teachers,
Seem to be having a
that
connection there.
they,
Oh, you're back. All right.
yes, yes. So that's it. It all begins probably from home, what the child see, what they're exposed to. But I'm saying there are certain systems in Jamaica, in our system, in society, that should help to change that reality. And so the reality is that children are just exposed. And with that kind of exposure, they feel that they have the right to. And they're going to explore. But what we need to do now is to ensure that when we see them exploring, that we call them one side and we have a little chit chat with them. When that is not done, when the community is not raising the child and we're depending solely on the parents to raise the child, we realize that we have a breakdown. And that breakdown, as the child grows, it will grow with them. And so, from having the lack of respect at that tender age, it will grow in them into adulthood. And so, just like any other bad habit, it will be hard to break. And so you grow, that's how it grows with you until you start to be very much abusive.
All right. And then that spills over into the intimate relationships as well as the family union. So, how can individuals recognize the warning signs, especially in these, the intimate partner and the family structure?
As I say, it is very clear. It is a lack of respect. It all begins with a lack of respect. And probably if we follow what tradition teaches, then probably it would not be so widespread. To have that kind of family structure where everybody respects each other and understands that everybody's voice carries some weight. you know. Um, so in an intimate relationship, we find that our men believe that because they're the man, that their voice carries more weight than the woman. And so he believes that the woman should not talk to him a particular way. And so when she starts to speak to him a particular way, he now starts to ask himself the question and maybe ask the female, who is the one wearing the pants in the home? Because he believes as the provider that his voice is the one that should be so loud and dominant. You see? So when you realize that there's a breakdown where that respect is, then you can identify then wait, there's something is wrong here. The issue is many a times based on the circumstances that females put themselves in, they allow for this to happen because they become so dependent. And so because
Stick a pin there because stick a pin because it's easy to say that and
for sure,
until you have actually been exposed, because even on the matter of respect,
uh,
what I deem as respect might not necessarily be what another female deem as respect, because they
true,
grew up in a certain environment where what I consider to be something demeaning is acceptable as a part of their social norm. So that's the part of the conversation, the deeper conversation that we're gonna have to have, but we won't be able to do it here because when you actually start engaging, and I'm sure you might have been in situations where you're able to see some of that in terms of the realities of some of these females, because you say that women put themselves in a particular situation, but or it's dear sister Reed started off by sharing about love and hope. So the reality is that some, not just females, in general, some people do not know what love is.
is Yes.
They do
So
not know what respect looks like. So whatever is given to them, and there's that matter of hope is really lacking for some people. They have no sense of direction. They don't know where they're going, and so it's easy to just float through life. And so it seems as if they're put themselves in a particular situation, but the odds are stacked highly against some of
true.
our counterparts. So just to make that clear, so we don't we don't leave here let anyone feel less than, because the
Sure.
realities are starkly different from some of us. All right. But you were sharing earlier in terms of the role you believe the schools should play, but we also have the workplace. You were sharing that there are different entities, because we grew up learning that it's a system. So you have the family, you have the church, you have the school, you have the state. And so everybody's supposed to be a part of this community that helped to groom the child. And so they would grow up as responsible citizens. So, what role do you see these institutions playing in terms of raising awareness about gender-based violence?
Well, for sure, based on what I've experienced in the professional world, um, the workplace spreads that kind of awareness. You may have some workplaces that are a little bit more societal than others, and so they are able to spread that kind of awareness. And then you have some that are just focused on productivity, and so they don't have the time to have workshops. They don't have the time to sit down a group of people and to invite some experts. They don't have probably a broadcast email system where they can send out an email and spread that kind of awareness. For my workplace, that happens quite often, you know. And then when we talk about the HR policies and that kind of thing, many a times, as you say, the policy is there, but it is not something that is established. And so for the average workspace in Jamaica, that is not a priority for them, because all they're focused on is ensuring that the productivity rate stays at a particular place, and at the end of the month or the end of the week, they're meeting their targets, and they're making their money. And for some, that's just all that matters and nothing else. So the lack of regard for that particular matter is what affects many people. And so, based on your background, based on your history, some things are priority to you and some things just aren't. And for many people, gender-based violence is not a priority to them. And so, whether they are influential individuals, whether they have the power and the authority to spread that kind of awareness, they just don't care. You see. And who are you to ask them to care? Who are you to ask them to share in that kind of conversation? It's just not a priority for them.
So here's where I believe the National Youth Parliament and other youth organizations can step in, because you deal with the facts, you share the facts. Because the reality is, if you have this prevalence of domestic, gender-based violence in general, that's it's going to impact the bottom line, because there
Right.
will be a number of work days lost because of it might not be reported as the case. But if it is that you're able to do your research and present the facts, so when you go in and you're sharing, you present the facts as is and show in terms of the opportunities that are there for these workplaces and other organizations as to why it's important for them to pay attention to these areas. I believe that you would have done a great job in terms of helping the process. All right. So, from where you sit, how can we address cultural norms or societal attitudes that enable or perpetuate gender based violence in Jamaica?
As I say, it's all about collaboration and
Mhm.
collaboration with the right people. Because many a times we collaborate with some people and we think that we're making an impact, and really and truly it is going nowhere. It's some most times just a talk shop. So it is all about, as I said before, collaborating with the right people, ensure that you're going in the right spaces and meeting the real people that would need this kind of information. Public awareness is always the best route to take. And so spreading the awareness across the board with every groups, with all the states that fall under the great state, then I think that can definitely can help. It is all about public awareness and helping people to know that you have to be accountable partners for each other. That's a very important thing. It sometimes too, and let me just put this in, when we do the broad, sharing of information, it doesn't reach directly. And so for a person like me that talks a lot, I often speak to people on a daily basis randomly, and we have these kind of conversations. And what I find is that people suffer without sharing that kind of information with everyone, anybody. But if you just sit with them on a one-on-one, then you'll hear their stories and then you can help them. And realize that this is probably my purpose in life, just to be that kind of person that someone can talk to. I've been doing it since high school, and I thank God for giving me the ability and the will to be able to continue to do that. And so we have to take accountability as individuals. you know we have to understand too that everybody operates behind their own personal biography, and so they treat with things differently, and personality clash and that kind of thing. But we have to be accountability partners for each other. So if I may perhaps see you having a bad day, I probably could call you one side and we have a little chit chat, and so on, and you find that probably is more effective than just probably sending them an email or sending them a link to watch a video on gender-based violence and that kind of thing. The one-on-one, I think, is very much effective. And I think that if we encourage each other and enable each other to continuously do that one-on-one, that would be very much impactful.
All right, and I am going to endorse what Peter and Baker is saying here. Not just the National Youth Parliament, but all organizations, individuals. Uh, it, it does help if we have an adequate understanding of gender-based violence. It's a very sensitive topic, and we have to be mindful, even as we seek to guide, that we're sensitive towards to as it relates to those who might be going through some situations. All right, how we address it, and realizing that our realities are different, because there's this saying that you hear that it's two different Jamaica. It's right. The realities for some people are starkly different, and unless you have been in some situations to encounter and engage with some of these people, you really do not know what is going on and what actually brought on a particular situation. So, all right, just to leave it right there in terms of being forearmed as we continue the discussion. But it's good to know, though, Peter Ann, where we are, and guidance as it relates to navigating. All right, thank you so much, Sir Sparks. And for those over on Instagram, I believe the feed is going to cut off anytime now. So remember that you can continue watching on Facebook or YouTube, same Serenity Resource Connector. All right, Sir Sparks, make way for our community development specialist. I trust our connection is working well. JP Hazel Williams Vaz, welcome.
Greetings and salutation, one and all, near and far. Thank you for welcoming me. I guess if I was in Ghana, I would say Akwaba, which simply means welcome.
Aquaba.
Yes.
All right, I learned a new
Yes.
word. Thank you. All right. So, in your
Yeah.
experience, because I know you are deeply involved in the community, how can communities mobilize to create safer spaces for women and girls?
You know, in order to create safer spaces for women and girls, it begins with engaging the whole community at large: men, women, children, elders, leaders, all the groups, PTAs, sports group, everybody, business personnel, to take collective responsibility for combating gender-based violence, which I'll refer to from now on as GBV. And this involves both preventative measure and support systems for survivors. You know, there are loads of different groups doing different things out there. So this also includes restorative justice, restorative practices, and restorative practices, for those who may not know much about that. The practice in restorative practices is proactive, whereas restorative justice is reactive. But it also includes the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, which start with umoja, which is unity. And it also includes a South African word called Ubuntu. I am because we are. So when it talks about creating spaces for women and girls, we have to look at some of the cultural strategies for safer space. We can look at music and public events. Jamaican music, particularly reggae and dancehall music, has been an historical vehicle for social change. Public events like concerts or radio shows can be used to raise awareness and create spaces for dialogue. For instance, whenever time I go to a new country and people say, "Where are you from?" I say, "Jamaica." The first song them sing or sing something, "Oh, Bob Marley, No Woman, No Cry," or something to do with love, because that's what Bob was postulating all the time in his songs. So not only that, we could also engage the community through storytelling. When I was a child on Moonshine Night, whoa, that was fun because we used the oral tradition. We used the Anansi. So the Anansi stories can be used to play a vital role in community development. And I heard my brother Sparks was saying earlier on about respect. And you also said something like, my definition, your definition of respect may be different from someone else, but it can also, the stories can also assist with borders and boundaries. Because when it comes to the community now, we have to look at innovative ways to realign the community, because the community that I grew up in kind of slightly different from the community that there is now. So not only that, we could look at dress codes. For example, There was a time, whenever time it was Valentine's Day and you're in Jamaica, wherever you are, you know it's Valentine's Day because all you seen was red and white. We could actually realign and reinvent. So, for example, we could have purple. We could wear purple for domestic violence awareness. And hopefully, these things, when we all work together, will assist in developing the community. Because there's a song, I like to create songs, you know, and one that I've just created. The more we work together, 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 the more the work together, the better things will be. Because when my concern is your concern, because when your concern is my concern, the more we work together, the better things will be. So it takes all of us to work together. All the groups.
Yes.
Big and tall.
Yes. I love
everyone.
your perspective. I love your perspective, Lady Vaz, because when we think about spaces, it's natural for us to think in terms of physical spaces. But what you did was to use the whole cultural aspect in terms of music. So the space you curate that space, whether it's at home, at work, wherever it is. So I love your concept of defining and creating spaces for women and girls, and in terms of the actual physical activities that we can actually utilize. All right, so we're going here. And so Sparks brought up something that led me here. What role does economic empowerment play in reducing vulnerability to gender-based violence, and how can communities support this?
You know, when people have access to discretionary funds, they're able to access other activities like travel, sports, etc. And this can help with the physical impulses. Because, you know, in some communities, in our Jamaican talk, some people that say, not na guan. So in some communities, once people are involved, then they'll be able to minimize some of the physical impulses. Because in some community, true, not na guan, are just maybe sex and drugs and drinking are some of the only things that are available. So economic empowerment is crucial in breaking the silence of GBV, as financial independence provides women and girls with the ability to leave abusive situations and rebuild their lives. For example, the Clarendon Parish Development Committee and the Clarendon Municipal Corporation have something called Spotlight Initiative. And this is entrepreneurship through traditional skills. You can look at the Jamaican culture. We are so rich in traditional skills such as craft making, culinary arts, and farming. Communities can help empower women by providing training in these areas, enabling women to start their own business. For example, the other day I got a video and I had to laugh because ackee and saltfish was in a bottle. So we can turn we hand, as we would say in our Jamaican language, and make fashion. So these are some of the things we can do. And not only that, you see, when a person is economically empowered, it removes the anxiety, you know. When you, as a woman or a man, can provide food, clothing, and shelter for your family, it make you feel good, you know. It's
True.
a bunununus feeling, as we
Indeed.
would say in Jamaica. And then we could also partnership in terms of economics development. We could partnership with microfinances and organizations that can also support women by facilitating access to these microfinances loans for small businesses, thus helping them create independent sources of income. And boy, you know, once you have this financial autonomy, it's also one of the keys for breaking the cycle of abuse. Because when we're talking about abuse, you know, remember, it's not just the violence, the physical thing, you know, it's the mental part as well.
Yes.
So basically, I think I'll stop there for now.
For now.
Yes.
Right. But we have just a little bit more to go
Yes.
because it's very important.
Yes.
This part. How can men and boys be included in this whole process in the community? Because they have to be, as you said earlier, it has to be everyone working together. So how practically can men and boys be included?
You know, engaging men and boys as allies in the fight against GBV is essential, because gender equality is not just the responsibility of women, you know. Men play a critical role in reshaping societal norms. So men and boys can be trained in martial arts with a focus on being able to be the protector of their family, thus enhancing pride and purpose. Can you imagine that? You feel good because you know, say, you're not only providing, but you're protecting your family.
Talk
And
about living with a
another,
sense of purpose.
exactly. And the
Yeah.
strategy, another strategy for engaging men and boys, we can have men's circles and storytelling, because our men don't talk. Remember, there's some of our men, you know, even if it's a 1 percentage, there are some of our men who are also being abused.
Indeed.
But men do not talk. So Jamaicans communities can host men's discussion circle where elders or respected male figures share stories from Jamaican folklore or history, such as the leadership of Nani. Well, we say Nani of the Maroon, but I know it's Nana of the Maroon. And the resilience of Marcus Garvey. You know, these stories highlight the importance of respect, justice, and equality, thus giving men and boys tools to challenge masculinity and to understand healthy expression of manhood. There was a time, and it's still happening in Africa, you know, when the men reach a certain age, they have to go through rituals to know their role of moving from boyhood to manhood. And the same goes for women. And we could look at role models in music and sports. In a country where sports figures like Usain Bolt and the people singers like Chronix are admired, these public figures can be engaged to promote messages of respect, nonviolence, and gender equality. Their influence can inspire young men and boys to adopt more respectful attitudes towards women. I remember an elder saying to me decades ago, this is what he tells all his sons. Sons, you can disrespect me all you like, but you see, always respect for your mother. Have respect for your mother, because you know what? When she was in labor, she's the one you have to thank, because all she had to do was to close her legs and there will be no you. So, and Shaggy, I think, have a song, the power of a woman. It just slipped out of what my
Strength of
head.
a woman.
The strength of a woman. So we can have civic engagement through festivals where men and boys can participate in community-wide celebrations such as Emancipation Day or Independence Day, where discussion about equality and respect are integrated into the cultural programming. Through, they can also do things. I tell you, it has been so hot this year, so they can also be involved in things beautifying the communities by planting trees or whatever activities that are happening. Be involved. And when you come, you take the little children as well. So all this will link back into the PTAs, the church-based organizations, the groups for the senior citizens, places like JCDC, all the stakeholders within the community.
Indeed. Wow, I could listen to you share all evening, Lady Vaz. But I'm sure you all have had a long day. You shared earlier in terms of successful community-based programs, initiatives in tackling gender-based violence. A very good one, the Spotlight Initiative, that partnership between the Parish Development Committee and the Clarendon Municipal Corporation. I think that was a very good one. And
Yes.
out of that, there were other projects, Spotlight for the in some other communities, I believe, in Clarendon, Buckner, and over in Longville Park and other areas. They have carried out those different initiatives. So if you are aware of others across the island that you would like to share, the conversation continues after this forum closes. So you can leave your comments. I see a
Yes.
number of questions. And we are going to have to keep this dialogue going after this live broadcast, because we'll never be able to cover everything. It's such an in-depth and intense area, very important one that it's just the start of the conversation. So we'll round out, Lady Vaz, by sharing how we can encourage more partnerships between communities, organizations, and government to prevent and address GBV.
Okay. Well, we can build strong partnerships between communities, organization, and the government is crucial for creating systemic change in addressing GBV. So building partnerships for long-term impact, which we could look at leveraging cultural events for partnership by using national festivals and cultural events such as Reggae Month or Jamaica Independence Celebration as platforms for public awareness campaign, and partnership between government bodies, NGOs, and local organizations can be solidified. And these events attract large audiences and can be used to promote GBV education and solicit support from different stakeholders. So it's collaboration between government and CBOs in Jamaica, collaboration between community-based organizations such as the Jamaicans Women's Bureau and government agencies can be enhanced through joint development programs. For example, the government could provide funding for education programs that teach young people about gender equality, while community leaders help ensure the program is culturally relevant and accessible to local communities. And I mentioned earlier on about the faith-based organization, churches and faith-based organization plays a pivotal role in social advocacy. They can partner with government and non-government organizations to provide counseling services for survivors and engage men and boys in conversation about non-violence and respect for women. Churches can also be provided. Churches can be mobilized to provide shelter, financial support, and rehabilitation service to those fleeing abusive relationships. There are loads of empty houses all around the place. So maybe some homework need to be done. So when somebody from up in the hills of Clarendon or someone from Portland want to flee like a thief in the night, they can go anywhere knowing that they will be safe. So after saying all that, my conclusion in weaving it all together, community mobilization in Jamaica, when built on cultural pride, collective effort, and spiritual values, become a powerful tool for addressing gender-based violence through music, dress, cuisine, and storytelling. We tap into the rich cultural identity that binds our communities and use it as a foundation for change by engaging men and boys, empowering women economically, and creating safe space for open dialogues. Jamaican communities can begin to dismantle the harmful gender norms that perpetuate violence. The mobilization cycle, driven by both grassroots action and strategic partnership with government and organization, holds potential to create lasting societal change, but most importantly, consistent, persistent programs that have clear requisite and objectives, outcome evaluated and measured in numerous ways over varying period of time. We must always remember we are the absolute intelligence that created the artificial intelligence referred to as AI. So we can make use of all of them. We can use YouTube, TikTok, and all the others to assist. And as we would say, when we tell one little story, Jack Mandora, we not choose none.
Lady Vaz, it seemed like we're going to have you on Culture Corner. Just to share with you, Culture Corner is on first Thursdays. Very engaging conversation. So we started out with insights from Lady Johnson Reed, the national president of the Mothers Union. We heard from Javon Dubidad, youth leader, and Delroy Sparks, our community, that's a long name, from the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica. So it was great hearing from you all. It's important for us to listen to the different perspectives, to hear where we are each at, and then we can navigate from there as to what else we need to do. So we go back to the drawing board and see how we can ensure that we continue the dialogue to sensitize, educate in the different spaces, so that we can actually make some meaningful input. And I love the community aspect, wrapping up this entire discussion in terms of how culture can play a huge role in everything that we do, affecting every aspect of our lives and getting everyone involved, from the baby to the more senior among us and the different organizations. Thank you so much for the different insights that you shared. And let me see, we are way over time. All right, so we have some interesting ones here. There are some questions here that we're probably going to have to bring to another forum. So we'll hold them, because we do have a safety and security forum with the Area 3 Police, where we can engage some additional expertise to respond to some of these questions. So this discussion doesn't stop here. I believe I'd want to, especially this one from Dr. Lavelle, are orders of protection putting the victim more at risk? Please explain. We did go through that. So we am going to ensure that we share that clip so that you can get the information directly from the experts in other spaces. So the questions are noted, and we continue. We have forums live each Thursday at 8 p.m. So just before we do the final wrap for this segment, just to share that coming up this Thursday at 8 p.m., we continue our series with the Clarendon Municipal Corporation, where we are highlighting the roles of the Clarendon Commercial Services and Divestment Committee, along with the Local Economic Development Officer, what exactly it is that they do and how they impact the community, how the community can be a part of that overall process. So stay tuned for that. Set your reminder if you're not yet. Thank you for those who started following over there on Instagram. I saw a number of people who are following during this live. So over on YouTube, go ahead, set your notifications so you can continue the dialogue. And Culture Corner, where we're going to have Lady Vaz at some point, comes up on first Thursdays. So Lady Vaz is out. We need to hear some of those stories. So yes, so 1 minute each, we're going to do a quick wrap. So we're starting with the youth arms. So we're going to take Javon Dubidad, then Delroy Sparks, then we're going to go over to Lady Vaz, and then our national president at the Women's Union will wrap up. So Dubidad, your 1 minute starts now. Are you still with us?
Okay. Yes, I'm hearing you guys. Go ahead.
You're looking very dark. We're not seeing you clearly. You have 1 minute to give your final thoughts. Share your final thoughts.
Wait, give me a minute. You could just pass on to Deborah for a minute for me, please.
All right, will do. Okay, Instagram has been very generous to us. We still have Instagram Live. Thank you all for tuning in.
Oh, good.
Yes, go ahead and share your 1 minute wrap up.
Thank you, moderator. I'm happy for this kind of conversation here. It has been a very interesting conversation, and one that I have several takeaways. But I would just like to share, though, that under the Ministry of Justice, that there is a victim diversion arm that helps victims get over issues like these.
Child diversion.
It's victim services. It's more victim services, right?
No, child diversion.
Oh, child diversion is all right. All right, let's make it clear. So we have child diversion and we have victim services. So child diversion is for those children who are running with the law, and they're seeking to get them readjusted, like what happened down west at the school. And then victim services now is where there are cases like these where whether it's a man or woman who's a victim or a child, and the victim services actually deals with the matter. Go ahead, Sir Sparks. Just want to make sure that we clear
For
that
sure,
up.
for
Okay.
sure. And so we have these services there under the Ministry of Justice, and the 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 reality is that sometimes people are not aware of these services. There are 14 offices across all parishes in Jamaica. And so wherever you are, there's a resource center available for you. And so it is just for you to find yourself to one of those offices and to get the help that you need. It is there for you, free of cost. You just need to be there. And they highlight as important as it is confidentiality, so there's nothing at all to worry about where that is concerned. So we ought to make these services useful, and to ensure that whenever we see maybe an issue of this kind of nature, that we refer people to these services that are beneficial to them.
Indeed. All right. So, Dad, are you ready?
Yeah,
Your 1
most
minute starts now.
all right. So for me, it was truly a blessing to be here to give such an insightful thought and the topic that is being discussed about just gender-based violence. As Miss Vaz would have stated, just to just erode this culture of masculinity, and seeing that it is a serious issue, and seeing that, oh well, while it may be an issue, is also can solve the problem of domestic violence against women in the household. So most definitely I appreciate the fact that I am a panelist to for this discussion. Definitely, I really appreciate it. I have several individuals would have shared their thoughts on different aspects of gender-based violence and how we can give recommendation, how we can solve it. Is truly a blessing, and I truly hope that individuals that are watching it currently live, that they may take something out of it, that they may receive something meaningful. So we are just not talking, but while we are talking, it have substance, and it may have a great tremendous impact upon their life. So thank you. And I also say thanks to you too, also Miss Winter, and the various
Pleasure. All right. So let's go to Lady Williams Vaz. Your 1 minute starts
Okay,
now.
my 1 minute start now. And I'm going to say, people, we're powerful. Yes? So I'm going to do it like this. Women, we powerful. Men, we powerful. People, we powerful. Men, we powerful. For the women out there, for the men out there, let us work together to realign the community. And then our Honorable Yvonne Johnson Reed talked earlier on about love and love. And there is Proverbs 31 that talks about the virtuous woman, and that is all about love. So the song I say, the God in me loves the God in you. The God in me loves the God in you. It's so easy. It's so easy to love. But a word of caution, many times when you're going to cross a train line, there's a sign that says stop, look, and listen. So I kind of arrange that and it goes like this: stabber, stabber, stabber. Stop, think, assess before action. Stop, think, assess before action. One mistake, you can end up in jail. The other mistake, you can end up in the grave. So stabber, stabber, Mr. Stabber, stabber, Mr. Stabber. So stop, think, assess before action. And with that, I say it's wonderful being here. And I just hope that our audience near and far, far and near, would have had something from tonight's presentation.
Thank you,
Peace.
Lady Van. Peace. All right. Lady Yvonne Johnson-Reid.
Yes, it's such an honor to have been a part of this discussion this evening. What a blessing, the opportunity to get the different perspectives. Each of us brought something to the table and we learned from each other. And it points to the fact that none of us have all the answers, and by collaborating, we can make such a difference. And it comes right back to the community, to the home. So I am so grateful that St. Gabriel's Mothers Union had the vision to ask you, Sister Winter, to host this event. And so for me, it is the beginning of actions that should really, really make a difference in the lives of men and women, boys and girls in our communities. Because at the end of the day, we all want a better Jamaica. So God bless you all, and I look forward to continue the work.
Fantastic. And let me thank you all, my panelists, for sharing. And I love when learning takes place. I heard this last week where the panelists, they learn from each other. So I am delighted to facilitate these kinds of connection where you can leave having participated in your sharing and your receiving in the same breath. And I mean, that's fulfilling for me. And I'm sure our audience would have taken some really amazing gems from what was shared here, or that their thoughts are triggered so that they too can start thinking about how each of us can be a part of this mission as we move forward. Thank you for those who are able to join us live. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or for those watching the replay. Be sure to leave your comments, like the video, and send it on so others can benefit from the discussion that we have had here. The discussion continues. So thank you so much again. And as always, have yourself a fantastic rest of the night, and be sure to join us on Thursday at 8 p.m. for our local governance and community development live forum.
Thank you, and good night, everyone.